Pat listeners, welcome to episode 36 of Husband and Wife Talks. On today's episode, we will talk about some of our recent weekend activities, including my trip to Maryland to see friends and family. We'll talk about the topic of gratitude and our experience with it and kind of some research behind it, and then some fun podcast recommendations. So stay tuned. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Marta. Trying to beat me to the punch?
I did, actually.
Yes, you did. How you doing?
I've been better. I've been worse. Just about average.
And I guess we should put a disclaimer that Marta is still getting over her sickness and has a cough right now. So hopefully she can find the mute button fast enough so you all don't have to hear her coughing.
I'm a professional at this point, so I will do that.
You definitely sound a lot better, though, than last week.
Last week I sounded like this, and this week I sound like this. Can you tell the difference?
I would hope so.
If you can't, then you should probably get your ears checked.
But this is episode 36 of Husband and Wife Talks. This episode will be released. Well, we're recording it on Tuesday, February 12th.
And it will also be released on Tuesday, February 12th.
Exactly.
How exciting.
Not too many holidays, just one, and I'm really confused by it because I've actually never heard of this thing, and it's National Plum Pudding Cake. I saw an image of it.
It's actually National Plum Pudding Day. There's no cake, folks.
Oh.
Correction.
National Plum Pudding Day. Thanks for correcting me. You always got my back.
No problem.
But I saw images of it, and it did not look appetizing. I mean, I like, because doesn't your mom make something like with plums, like in the middle of the cake?
Yeah, like a tart.
Yeah, that tart. It's good because it's like got a breading surrounding it.
Yeah.
This just looks like it's just straight, kind of like Jello-ish shape.
Honestly, I was never a fan of pudding. So
You don't like pudding in general? Like chocolate pudding?
When I grew up, I never ate pudding, applesauce, like stuff with that consistency that came in those little plastic things.
Just didn't like those?
No, just my parents never bought it, so I never really knew what it was.
Do you like Jello?
We would make Jello, I think, for my mom would make different cakes, and she used to make one with like a layer of apple, and then a layer of Jello.
Sounds good.
It was for my dad's birthday one year. It was delicious.
And I'm sure people get more of a tasting for Jello when they go to college.
I don't get it.
You don't get it?
Oh, I get it.
You get it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
I think some
cool.
people out there hopefully got it.
Cool. I get
In
it.
that time span. But yeah, I don't know much else to say about National Plum Pudding
It doesn't
Day.
deserve any more airtime.
I like pudding. Honestly.
You don't like plum pudding. And today's not National Pudding Day, it's National Plum Pudding. So
But
if you
it's
don't
not
like
like
it, we gotta skip it.
It's not actual pudding though. It's like in the shape of like a cake looking thing, which is even weirder for me. That's like I don't mind. This is going to sound weird, but I'm a weird person. I like Jello in its little container. I don't like when Jello is outside its container in a different shape. It always throws me off, and it's very wiggly and gross looking. Like, have you ever seen the Office episode where Jim puts Dwight's stapler in Jello? That just off-puts me. I don't want to eat Jello, and it just looks like a cake, because it's not a cake.
That's true. So how do you feel about what I was just describing, the cake that my mom made that
Delicious.
had... You've never had that particular
Sounds
cake.
delicious.
Okay. Noted. Very cool. So should we move on to our first legitimate segment? I guess second after the national holiday, but it just felt very underwhelming this week.
Yeah, it wasn't too much to talk about. Last week we had fettuccine alfredo. This week we have plum pudding.
Yuck.
Ugh.
I mean, I guess some people like it, but...
Yeah, no offense to anybody out there that likes it. How would you take offense, though, if we don't like National Plum Pudding? It's like taking offense if somebody doesn't like an orange or something.
I don't know. You just have to realize that some people like some things and some people don't.
Who knows? Maybe we'll get to the point where people get upset if you don't like certain foods.
Whatever. Anyway, what we've been up to?
Yeah, you want to go first? You've been the busy beaver over there.
Probably why I'm still sick.
Probably. Been going all over the place.
So I flew back from skiing last Wednesday night. And And then 2 days later, on Friday, I flew to Maryland.
Mind you, I'm taking her all over to the airport. I got the route to the airport down pat in my head.
That's good. But yeah, Friday I flew to Maryland, partially because I found a really cheap flight back to see my Southwest tip in the last episode, but I was just searching randomly for that weekend, because a friend had something going on, and then I wanted to celebrate my birthday with not just my parents, but also some of my other family, so I thought this weekend would kind of be nice, and I think the ticket was $118 round trip from Denver to Baltimore, which is a really good deal. So Friday night, flew into BWI. Saturday, I think by the time I landed and then
manicure, right?
Went to bed. You're getting ahead. You're getting way ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Saturday morning. My apologies.
Well, then I backtracked a little bit to Friday.
Oh.
I was going to say that by the time I landed and went to bed, it was around, I believe, around 2 a.m. Eastern, which is midnight here, but I don't go to bed that late in Denver, so 2 a.m. felt late.
Ladies and gentlemen, this weekend, Marta was a night owl.
That's true. So I went to bed pretty late and then just woke up, had a pretty slow morning. I did get a manicure with my mom, which was fun. It was $11. That's
Is that
so
expensive
cheap.
or cheap?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Because it's one of a small locally owned type
Gotcha.
nail salon, but the fancy spa places where you can get also a manicure and a pedicure, and then usually massages and eyebrows and all that, they can be a lot more expensive. So $11 was pretty cheap.
Did you just get your hands done, or did you get the other stuff you were just mentioning?
No, we just got manicures,
Oh, okay.
both of us.
I don't know.
But yeah, Saturday we did that, and then Saturday night I drove down to one of my great friends from college's house, but also a loyal listener. You know who you are. Well, obviously, because I was at your house.
I hope a lot of people in the audience know who he is, because we reference him a lot.
That's true. But it was really, really, really fun. I was a little nervous because there were going to be some people I didn't know, and I'd never. The premise of the party was a dumpling making party. So I was like, I've never made dumplings. I don't know. And some of the friend whose house it was, he invited a few of his other friends, from college and from some hobbies that I didn't necessarily know as well. Or someone from high school, I think, too. But honestly, I think we all had a really good time. I learned how to make fried dumplings and boiled dumplings.
Oh, boiled.
Yeah, boiled. Because
isn't there a way to steam them as well? Isn't that another
I think
option?
so. But they were in the water. They weren't above the water. I mean, they rise to the top when they're cooked, but they weren't steamed.
Every time I see dumplings and people making dumplings, well, Crazy Rich Asians, I saw they put them in that wooden container that looked like they were getting steamed.
I think that's how you steam them.
Yeah.
But don't quote me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've never steamed them, so.
But, so yeah, that was really fun. My friend who hosted bought all the ingredients ahead of time, so he bought these, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches in diameter, these, the dough, pre-made dough that you would wrap the dumplings in, then ground pork, and then some veggies. So when I got there were already people chopping up and prepping the veggies. And then they had Asian pears. Have you ever had Asian pears?
I feel like I have, but I don't remember.
They look like they're a little bit bigger than tennis balls, but they're still pears. Someone there described them as having the consistency of an apple, but tasting like a pear. I agree with that. They're really good.
I feel like pears are underrated. I know this is random, but I feel like pears are definitely an underrated fruit. I always enjoy them, but I never go out of my way and get them for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I don't want to say they're too sweet, but they have a different taste than apples. And I feel like they probably offer the same amount of nutrients as an apple does.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I always liked pears, and the few times I've had Asian pears have not been disappointed.
Oh, do you remember when we made a pear brie grilled cheese?
Oh, actually, when I was at home or back in Maryland, I was telling my mom about that because she was looking at brie cheese.
Oh, it was delicious. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain how you go about, because you just mentioned that you were making dumplings. Did you want to explain how the process goes?
Sure. So,
because I'm curious myself.
I mentioned the first step is like prepping the ingredients. So there was the dumpling wrappers, the actual dough, the pork, and then I think the pork was seasoned with something, but then there was also chopped up cabbage, and I can't believe I'm forgetting. It was literally 3 days ago. Cabbage and something else.
Onions.
Oh, scallions, green onions. Or are they the same thing?
Yeah, I think they are.
I'm not sure.
Don't quote me on that. I'll look it up.
Green onions, like the really skinny, long onion-esque things. So those were the 3 main ingredients, and then you mix them all together, so you just have like one filling thing that you're just dumping into the dumplings.
They are the same.
Awesome. And then...
Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
And then you take the circled dumpling dough thing, the circled piece of dough, and you dip. So you should have like a bowl of warm water beside you, and you dip your finger in that, and then go around the circumference. And that water on the circumference helps the dough to stay together.
Didn't we have to do that with ravioli as well?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's similar. It's It's not pasta, but it's dough with something inside. So it's a similar process. And then my friend actually gave us a tutorial. It was pretty funny. But you take a spoonful of the like pork veggie mixture, but you have to make sure that's not too much, or else it's like the dumpling itself won't be able to close. Someone's getting hungry over here. And then you just fold it over like a taco, but you make sure that the top, the edges touch. And then the next part I really can't explain over the podcast, but so dumplings usually have like those 3 ridges on the side. So then there's like a special way to fold them over each other each way so that you get those 3 ridges. Okay. So is that a good enough explanation?
I think so. For a podcast anyway. Maybe you should do a video of it.
Maybe one day.
But do you want to continue with your weekend?
Sure.
Since you are very busy, I didn't have much of a crazy weekend myself. Because I realize when I'm without you, I don't do much. Like, it's you that normally drives me to do fun things.
Yeah, I drive myself to do quote-unquote fun things, and I'm flying around every 2 days, and I'm still sick, and needless to say, I'm pretty tired of traveling, and I'm excited for the weekend of the 16th and 17th, where I might just stay in this apartment all day long.
I think I enjoy traveling if I'm not doing a lot of it in a consistent amount of time. Like if I'm doing it once for like a vacation or something, I think I just enjoy that you're about to go on this vacation and you're just relaxed in the airport, people watching, and you can read a book and everything of that nature. I just enjoy people watching. But the idea of that was the main reason like I didn't want to also travel again, because I'm the type of person where I get back from traveling, I don't want to travel I need a good cushion period.
Yeah, try 48 hours.
Exactly. I'm not I wouldn't do that, but that's sort of I mean, right now the 48 hours is kind of came upon you just randomly. You didn't expect it, right?
Well, I knew I would have that between getting back from skiing and then flying to Maryland, but then my next travel is work related, so that was sprung upon me.
Yeah. So yeah, like the note says, I've been missing Marta. She's been gone all the time. I've been lonely.
February's been a busy month so far, and it's no end in sight, but no spoiler alert for future podcasts, because we report what we've been up to, not what we're going to be up to. So
I was just thinking maybe next year when we're continuing this podcast, maybe we should plan better that if we're releasing an episode a few days before Valentine's Day, maybe we should have something related to Valentine's Day talking about.
I don't like Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not. It's a
Hallmark holiday.
And
it's ridiculous because, I guess, random aside, and then I'll continue.
Yeah, sorry.
But when we were skiing on the news, they were saying, like, how much should you spend on Valentine's Day? And my dad sarcastically, like, he walked out of the room to go do something, and then he was like, came back in, he was like, so how much should you spend on Valentine's Day? And I was like, I don't know. I think the small little gestures are nice, like flowers or a card or chocolate or something small, but the whole, like, you have to go on the fanciest dinner ever and do a fancy river cruise, or just like going over the top seems forced.
Yeah.
Because Hallmark or whatever, someone told you that this is the day that you're supposed to celebrate.
Like, why can't you do that any other day?
Yeah, I agree.
But continue with your very fun weekend.
Wegmans. On Saturday, I went to Wegmans. If you don't know what Wegmans is, it's a grocery store.
Oh, my goodness.
Definitely in Maryland and Pennsylvania. I think Virginia has them too. New Jersey doesn't, right? Wegmans.
I don't think so.
I don't know what else to say besides I'm obsessed with it. It's an amazing grocery store. Actually, I have a funny story about Wegmans. When I was in college, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, my roommate and I, when we lived in an apartment just off campus, we would shop at, what was a grocery store on Route 1?
Shoppers?
Shoppers. We would shop at Shoppers. And then one day I realized that there was a Wegmans like 20-ish minutes off campus, maybe 30. And we drove there. And we walk in and we start like literally gawking at things. We're like, oh my God, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at this. This looks so fresh. We're like freaking out. And then this person comes up to us and is like, where are you guys from? And I lost it. I started laughing. I was like, this is so embarrassing.
You started laughing in this lady's face? Or guy's face?
I think I was laughing because I was so uncomfortable because we got pretty much called out for being out of town. So I laughed and I was like, oh, actually, I go to University of Maryland.
I thought you were mainly laughing because you thought you were like from abroad or something and you were just amazed by this grocery store.
Well, that and just being embarrassed that we were like flipping out.
And having to say like,
but there's another Wegmans story.
Away.
Remember when you and I used to go when we lived in Maryland and we drove up to Germantown or whatever?
Yep. Sat through traffic just for Weggies.
But in the front of Wegmans, they had the avocado, the red onion, the limes, the garlic, and the tomatoes all together, like clearly a guacamole prep section. And I was, again, flipping out, like, oh my gosh, Adam, look at this. This is so convenient. And then this older lady comes up and she's like, I know, right? Perfect for making guacamole. And I was like, I'm bonding with 50-year-old women at a grocery store. I need a new hobby.
Well, we do say we're old souls at heart, right?
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, so then driving back from that was crazy.
From Wegmans or?
No, from the dumpling making. I left so much later than I thought. I got there around 6, and I was just having so much fun. We were playing games and just catching up, and talking to some of the people I didn't really know just to see their story. And it was so funny. So Alan's friend that was there from high school, like I think Alan's best friend from high school, he was literally just like Alan. Like sometimes you meet people.
AK.
I mean, AK. Sorry.
Gave me grief when I've said his name once. And you just rattled it off 4 times.
My bad. But he was just like AK because they like had these cute little inside jokes with like weird sounds that they would do to each other and like laughed at the same stuff. Because sometimes when I meet friends of my friends, I'm like, how are you guys friends? But in this case, it was clear. Like the personality, the everything. So I enjoyed meeting Alan's friends from like other AK's friends from other walks of life. I've lost it.
I feel like saying first names is okay.
Okay. Well, now we've also given the last initial. The initial of the last name.
Or have we?
Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. But then a crazy story driving back. So I left. By the time I left, it was like 12:30, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes to drive back to my parents' house. And I was like, yeah, I should probably go. They were like, oh, you can sleep here. Someone said, oh, you can sleep on the bed and I'll sleep on the couch. I was like, no, it's okay. Thank you. But I really should get back. So I was driving back, and on the ramp from one highway to the other, just like on my way back to my parents' house, a car passed me. I was going, 50 miles an hour on the ramp or whatever? Mm-hmm. And a car passed me on the left shoulder, going at least 70.
This is to get off of the road and merge, right, to another road?
This is getting off, the off ramp. And I wasn't even going that slow, and it was at that point like 1:30, close to 1:40 a.m. Mm-hmm. So I was really nervous because there could have been drunk people on the road or who knows what. So when I saw that car coming up behind me really fast, I got so scared. I was like, they're going to barrel through me. And then they, not swerved, but it was like one of those, they went around me and then back. And I was like, why is that necessary? I don't know. It was scary, but just a warning to be safe when you drive late at night, because even if you didn't drink at all, are not tired, like totally 100% aware of your surroundings, it could always be someone that's been drinking or someone really sleepy that runs into you. So it's just,
be aware.
Gotta be safe.
Don't be afraid, though. Driving scared also doesn't help.
Yeah, just maybe a healthy amount of fear, but more just awareness and extra caution.
Mm-hmm. That has been a PSA from Husband and Wife Talks. Shall we continue with your weekend? Since you have so many things you've been up to. Things. It's all about you, baby.
Okay, this is the last thing. So then on Sunday, I got to see some of my other family, like extended family other than my parents. And my mom made me a birthday cake that it was like chocolate cake layers, but then it had this raspberry mousse kind of layer in the middle. It was amazing. Even though I'm on the fitness challenge, but I decided that on my birthday, I can YOLO and have some cake.
You celebrated your birthday twice now.
I did.
It's impressive. Most people only get to celebrate it once.
Whatever. And then right before my family came over, I was just looking at different houses on Redfin and on Redfin or Zillow. And I saw an open house literally on the street that my parents, or like a nearby street, and it was so close. So my dad and I went to the open house, and it was a beautiful, like wooden accents on the inside. It really looked like it belonged in the mountains. I think it was like 7,000 square feet. It was huge.
Dang.
And awesome.
Something we can't afford at the moment. Sounds like. All right. Well, it's time for my crazy weekend. Besides just missing Marta, which is a given.
Stay tuned, folks. It's going to be a crazy one.
I did some coding. That's about it. I did while coding, because I was at a certain point to get bored, but as like a reward for doing portions of my code, I watched The Punisher on Netflix. That's one of the Marvel TV shows that are on Netflix, except for it's probably going to go away since all the other Netflix Marvel shows got technically canceled on Netflix because they're moving over to the Disney streaming channel. That's going to happen. I don't know when. But yeah, I watched that. Huh?
Is it happening like soon-ish, sometime this year?
I feel like I keep hearing people talk about it, so it has to happen sometime in the near future. I mean, they can't just keep talking about it and nothing comes up. I thought it would be that Disney, with the amount of resources, they would be able to kind of put that all together rather rapidly. But yeah, that's basically my weekend. Coded, watched some Netflix. Sounds a little nerdy doing that, but I'm still working on my application project, and I think I've made some good progress. And a lot of times, if you want to get places in life, you got to do something when you're not working, I guess. On the weekends, you got to put in the time and effort.
And there's a saying, I think either my parents wrote it for me on like a graduation card or something like that, or just a motivational card. But it was something along the lines of like, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get, or like, if you always do what you've always done, okay, maybe we should Google it because I don't quite remember. But it was something along the lines of like doing what you always did is at some point not going to get you more, and at some point it's going to get you less because you're not really progressing at all. But yeah, kind of agree with what you said, because you have to, I mean, you don't have to do stuff outside of work that's like building an app, but it's good to have at least hobbies.
This is by Henry Ford, I think. If you'll always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Does that sound familiar?
It was definitely more than that, but we can come back if we figure it out.
Maybe they added quotes together and made their own.
That would be shocking.
Okay, now it's saying Albert Einstein said the exact same thing. I'm getting a little confused here. This Goodreads site is confusing me.
Should we just keep going?
Yeah, I guess instead of just dead silence of us searching this dang quote. Only if you could have remembered it, Marta. It would have saved us time.
Sorry.
Nah, it's okay. But is there anything else you want to mention for what we've been up to?
Yes. Today, actually the past 2 times that I've had a pleasant surprise, meaning getting flowers from my awesome husband. You walk in the door and make some gesture and I don't see it.
Yeah, I put one of the roses in my mouth and said, "Hey."
Well, I
didn't.
Not
that romantic, but I think I said, "Hey, beautiful." And instead of it, you being like, "Oh," you got scared.
Classic.
Good times.
But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but I got beautiful red roses today. Mm-hmm. Out of the blue. #grateful.
But I guess now it's time to get into our interesting tidbit / discussion / whatever you want to call this segment. And I think this was Marta's idea, so I kind of want to throw it over to why she wanted to do this and talk about this.
So, usually preface, I don't really know what I want to talk about on the podcast several days in advance, but this week I did, and it was kind of weird. So when I got home on Saturday night from the dumpling party, I was just like, I felt really grateful, I guess. And I was like overwhelmed with gratitude. I was really thankful for the friends I was able to see, my friend that hosted, and also a bunch of other friends that were there, because most of them, now that I live here in Denver, I don't get to see that often. So it was just really nice to see everyone and catch up and see that, like, yeah, maybe some people I don't talk to as often as I did in college, but you can always just pick up where you left off. Mm-hmm. And it's just nice that people don't forget about you because you're far away. Like, I feel like some people are like, oh, you live so far or whatever. But for close friends, like, I'm willing to go places and do things for them or with them because they're important to me and I want to spend time with them. So I just felt grateful that my friend had even invited me and asked me if I wanted to go, even though he could have just totally ignored me because I live in Denver.
Mm-hmm. I know that feeling from time to time.
So I was just grateful for that and for being able to see my parents, and that, knock on wood, that they're healthy, and got to see my other family. I don't know. So I was just feeling like really grateful, and it's 2 a.m. and I was just like laying in bed, like happy. It was weird.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about gratitude on today's podcast because it was something that I was feeling lately, and I just felt like it would be an interesting topic.
And you mentioned to me that you seemed a little confused that we only set one day. It's kind of like the Valentine's Day discussion where we're saying, you only set that one day to be romantic when you can be romantic all other days. It's kind of the same thing with gratitude when it comes to Thanksgiving. Like, that's the day you're supposed to give thanks. But a lot of times I think it's beneficial to wake up each day and just be grateful that you're alive and you have the people around you that are around you, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of jumping off of what you said. And in relation to gratitude, I feel like in the past 6 months to a year. I don't really know if it's tied to getting married, growing up, moving away, or if it's just kind of a mix. But I feel like I've gained a bigger appreciation for my parents because I feel like, I don't know if it's everybody, but on average, I feel like when you're a teenager, you're kind of annoying and like you're always annoyed at your parents and they're always annoying you. And I don't know, not always, but there's just that tension because of growing up and wanting independence. But I feel like since moving away in these past few months to a year, I feel like I cherish time with my parents and just family in general because, I don't know. First of all, you don't really know how much time you have, but that's kind of morbid. But also, like...
It's true, though. You never know what the next day is going to bring you.
Yeah.
Who knows? An asteroid can come from the sun and all of a sudden we're gone.
That's true. Also morbid.
Yeah.
But I guess I was just thinking, like, now that I'm an adult and you and I are our own little family now, I just want to have a good relationship with my family and your family because once we have kids in the future, like, I want to set a good example of, like, how family should be. Obviously, no family's perfect. Everyone has their...
That's for sure.
Has their ups and downs and dramas and whatever. But it's just... I don't know. It's, I think, good to be thankful for what you have, even if maybe your relationship with your parents or family or whoever isn't where you want it to be. I think you can always take steps to get there if you want to. If you don't, then, I mean, it's a personal decision. But
yeah, and I think I can piggyback off of that a little bit because I realized that I sort of just, I guess it's my personality in general. I don't reach out as much as I should. And I think one of the resolutions that I had this New Year's that I didn't mention on the podcast, but I'm going to say now, is that I had a goal each week to call my parents, my mom on Monday and my father on Friday. I did it so I would remember what day to call when, even though it's not that hard. But
you only have 2 parents, you don't have like 20.
Yeah, I know it's cute though. But yeah, I think talking to them more now each and every week makes me grateful to have them in my life and they're still around because a lot of people aren't lucky enough to have both their parents still here and it's unfortunate. But I think there's a lot of things to be grateful in life in general that some people just don't realize it or they're, I guess, I don't want to say too pouty, but they're just kind of in their own head and not realizing the benefit that is life that you have right now. And there's always something you can look towards and be grateful for. Just like being grateful, like, hey, I got food today. That's always a good thing because some people don't.
True.
And I just think it's probably can make steps in the future going forward to try to be more and more grateful. I remember in one book that I was reading, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was for some reason, but they mentioned late at night it's always beneficial to like list out things off the top of your head that you're grateful for because I think that gives a positive mindset. And that's one thing that I actually noticed when I was searching just like stuff about gratitude is they talk about gratitude journaling where you go and at the end of the day and you specify what you're grateful for and be very specific about it. Just so it helps, I guess, get you in that mindset of looking for things to be grateful. And I think that just general attitude when you start like realizing great things around you, I feel like that benefits you in the long term because you become more positive and your emotions get better, I guess, or you become happier because you're noticing more and more things that you can be grateful for. I think it's just like a snowball effect, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think on social media, a lot of it is trying to like not necessarily show off. Some people do want to show off. Some people are just trying to like document their life and show people, but mostly only the positive stuff. But I feel like with that, there's not really any aspect of like being thankful or gratitude. Mm-hmm. I feel like mostly on social media, aside from like people posting good things in their life, there's a lot of negativity. Like, I'm friends with a few people on Facebook, and I feel like they're always negative. Like, even if they go on vacation, there's something negative to say. Mm-hmm. And it's just constant negativity. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Like, obviously, I complain and have bad days and all that. But I feel like when you're in that mindset, but also putting that out there on the internet, is that helping you feel better? Are you like, I just don't understand that sometimes, because to me, complaining is fine, but why are you trying to put it on social media and like bring everybody else down?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even like they're trying to start a conversation and be productive or something like that. It's just saying, oh, I had to do this and oh, my life sucks. Almost like asking for pity, which I have no respect for, to be honest.
I think people just want to play the victim because that's easier. They want to try to get pity for themselves. Like people say, oh, I'm so sorry. And that for some reason makes them feel better, because that's the easier solution, right? That's the easier thing to do, is to feel bad for yourself. It's to get angry, like, oh, the world's against me and things of that nature. Like it's outside your control, instead of, taking control of it and actually be thankful for things that are going on in your life and trying to take control really of your life by just realizing that there are things that you're grateful for in general. Even if you're having the worst day possible, you can still be thankful for just, being able to breathe and things of that nature.
And we're not saying, I don't do this every day. I'm not like, I don't go to bed and write down things I'm grateful for. Maybe I will one day in the future, I don't know. But even if you're not doing that or being like super thankful, at least don't be super negative. You can just be neutral. If you have a horrible day, just take as much time as you need to complain and whatever, get over it. But then
get over it.
Don't eventually get over it, and don't just keep it dragging on for days.
Good point.
But yeah, that was a long, intro / conversation about gratitude.
Is there anything else you want to mention about it?
We have some facts from the World Wide Web that we could share, I suppose.
You want me to read it, or you got it?
I can talk about it.
All right, go for it.
So we also wanted to do a little bit of research about gratitude, just so that we have some scientific, or not necessarily scientific, kind of scientific, just someone else's viewpoint and opinion on it, so we're not just talking ourselves. But according to Psychology Today, practicing gratitude means paying attention to what we are thankful for, to the degree of feeling more kind and compassionate to the world at large. And gratitude can motivate people to make positive changes in their life, which I think sounds like a good thing, especially nowadays when you see a lot of negative, scary things in the news. And practicing gratitude can increase your well-being, health, and happiness, and it has been associated with higher energy, optimism, and empathy, which all sound like just good characteristics in general.
But doesn't it make sense though that it would
make sense.
That would be associated? Like if you're being constantly like happy about something, I feel like happiness, that emotion, or being grateful, that emotion like builds energy, like it states. And like I've known when I've been and there's one of those days where I'm just very pessimistic about something, that just sucks out all of your energy, because that feeling and that the pessimism that's weighing down on you. I know it's just like a feeling, but you can feel it. It just drains you of everything just because you're in your own head and saying like bad things about yourself for some reason. And it's just like a snowball effect that way, where it just drains you of everything, basically.
Yeah.
So I can understand why being grateful can actually lead to more happiness and energy in your life, because you're not giving into that negative emotion that comes so easily to humans.
And I feel like people that are happy and gracious and all of that, it's more contagious.
Yeah.
When you're like neutral, but when you're actually actively happy and trying to engage with other people, that's contagious. But also negativity is contagious.
Yep.
So it's just about like what do you want to be putting into the world, and what do you want from the people around you, kind of.
Yeah, I completely agree that it's sort of like a contagious feeling, because when you're because I've been at jobs where people are either like really angry about something, and that just like leads to a snowball effect that way, where everybody else in like the group is upset about it. And then I've also been in other work situations, mainly where people surprisingly come into that day like really happy, even though we're not like we're still working, but they're really happy, and it just rubs off on people that way too. So I think it's like what you said, it's whatever you want to put out into the world. If you want to be positive and put out positive things, which is a good thing, then do that. If you want to put out negative things, I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And another way we can kind of segue into the next thing that you can take the lead on, but how do you keep track of when you're feeling grateful and gratitude? I
think I sort of mentioned it at the beginning, but I did see it from like another site, happify.com, where they mentioned gratitude journaling, because apparently it's beneficial that it, like I said, slowly changes how you perceive situations, so it's kind of making an adjustment in your own mind. And they mentioned getting specific, and here's it just helps you, as they state, open your eyes to more of the world around you so you can be more grateful. And it sort of leads you to then, if you start doing it, you can make a game out of it of pointing out a lot of things that, like in that one day, that you are grateful for. So it's like you just write down very specific things, and then it just continues throughout, because then you start actually noticing it more and more when you're focused on it, and then it becomes second nature.
That's true.
Yeah. I kind of want to get back to doing that, though. I did like writing that stuff down. I think I was doing it before. I'm trying to remember the book, though. But I was doing it before we moved, I remember. And then I guess in the move and everything, I forgot to continue doing it. But I should get back to it because I enjoyed it. Number 1, Marta, always. My gratitude journal.
Aww.
You were supposed to rank them. So I'd always put you, then family, then friends.
Do you always write the same thing?
Just those first 3.
Oh, you always write those 3. But
Yeah.
then do you write others?
Yeah, I write others, but those are always consistently my first 3.
Aw.
I mean, it's true.
That's sweet.
I know. I can be sweet sometimes.
Sometimes.
You're funny. I guess now it's time, unless you have anything more to say, we can move on to our recommendation segment.
Yep, I have several recommendations.
It's not like I was going to mention this one thing, and you just were upset for some reason that I was going to talk about it.
I don't even know what he's talking about. Hot guys. That has a different connotation.
Whoa.
Hot listeners. But the first is a amazing podcast that you should listen to.
I don't know which one you're talking about right now because you were gushing about both.
It applies to both.
Okay, yeah.
Well, spoiler alert, now they know that both of my recommendations are hot podcasts. The first one.
Well, before you started, I was going to mention apparently this recommendation week or recommendation segment is going to be all podcast related.
So if you don't like podcasts, just skip the last few minutes.
If you don't like podcasts, I don't think they're listening to us.
That was a silly thing to say. Anyway, so the first one is called the Rosecast. That
was my recommendation.
It was going to be Adam's recommendation, but I'm the one that introduced it to him. So I feel like...
But that doesn't mean you can take ownership of a recommendation.
Well, it was my recommendation already.
If you wanted to recommend it. Okay. If you wanted to recommend it, you could have said it prior weeks.
I'm sorry, I wanted to recommend it before you recommended it, okay?
Okay.
Anyway, it's the #1 Bachelor Recap podcast hosted by a male interracial best friend duo. That's literally the description of their podcast. So don't hate my description of their description. But I love it. I watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelor Winter Games. I know, judge me. You know, everyone's got the guilty pleasure.
I do it too because I love trashy reality TV.
Me too. I used to hate it and think it was dumb before I joined it. You know what they say? If you can't beat them, join them. And I joined them. Anyway, so I like the podcast, not really because of like the Bachelor content itself, but obviously that's a part of it. But I just love the dynamic that it's hosted by Rim and AB. Those are their nicknames that they go by on the podcast. But they're so funny and charismatic, and they do a really good job recapping the podcast.
That's why I like it. I don't like when you watch or listen to podcasts that are specifically show based and they just jump around from place
I've
to
listened
place.
to other Bachelor recaps, and they're just like that. They just jump around.
Drives me nuts. Like, just follow in order of what happened.
And honestly, I think their motto once was like, or I don't know if it was their motto, but they were saying that they recap thoroughly enough where you don't technically even have to watch if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
They give you all the detail.
All the necessary detail.
Yeah.
They skip the filler stuff.
Yeah, but I really like it. Also, I was super excited because they have something called a mailbag where you can text in to this number and ask a question, have a comment, or whatever. And they pick a select few on each podcast.
I feel like we need to do that because it's a lot easier than emailing. Even though emailing is not hard, but everyone has their phone out, so they can just...
That's true. But one week I actually decided to message them, and my question was featured on the podcast.
I'm not going to say how upset I was that my question was not featured, but, it's okay. No hard feelings or anything.
Sounds like there's a lot of sadness.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about gratitude, so I'm just grateful that they chose my question.
Way to bring it back, Marta. Way to bring it back.
Thank you.
But yeah, just to piggyback off of it, because I was originally going to, mention this as my recommendation, but yeah, I really enjoy it just because I like that they point out they kind of point out what everyone else is thinking when they're watching the show, and it's nice to hear somebody else mentioning it, and you're just like, yas. Because they're just saying exactly what you're thinking, and then they also kind of poke fun at what's going on, and it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
They have a good chemistry, just
They
like
do.
us.
Aw.
Except for we're married and they're not.
True.
They're best friends,
True.
but we're best friends too. So
Aw.
yeah,
Just gets cuter and cuter.
I'm just being very sweet on this podcast.
Should I get into my second one before you get into yours?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, if you have a recommendation.
Since you stole mine, I'll try to think of something.
Technically, I knew of it first, which gives me the authority to recommend it. Yep. Anyway, my second one is also a podcast, which I have to give a shout out to one of our listeners, AK, because he recommended this to me.
Back to AK now.
Sounds like I literally have one friend. I promise I have more, but they're just less involved in my life and the podcast. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. But Choose FI is a podcast about financial independence, but they also have a lot of, it's like that, but then they have different topics on each podcast. So they've talked about Dave Ramsey. They talked about how Americans spend a lot of money on food and how you can reduce your cost of grocery bills and food each month. They talked about how you can get into different partnerships with people if you're like interested in the same hobby or starting a business. They talked about failure. They talked about investing and dealing with fees when you're investing. They talked about, those are actually the only episodes I've listened to so far, but I think it's fascinating. It's definitely not for everybody, but I think there's a lot to learn even if you're not interested in the financial independence thing. They just have a lot of really good tips and actionable feedback, which I really like. They have a lot of actionable feedback in their podcast. And their website is just choosefi.com. So super simple. There's a lot of articles and just a lot of good information. So even if you're a tiny bit curious, I would say check it out because you might learn something you didn't know. And if you're curious about personal finance or debt or any of that, it's a really great place to learn.
Agreed.
So those are my two recommendations.
Good recommendations.
Thank you.
It's my turn now for a recommendation, which was, again, stolen from me.
Were you going to do another podcast that you've been listening to?
Yeah, but I wanted to do something like not completely well-known type podcast because I listen to a good amount that are just more of the well-known variety. And and all the other unknown ones are more just like show based. But I mean, but it's not related right now because I listen to like Game of Thrones and show based podcasts. But one that I was just thinking about because I listened to it today. If you want a podcast that gives you a nice laugh, How Did This Get Made? That's a pretty well known one, but I would recommend it mainly just because they watch a lot of crappy movies and then they recap it on the podcast, and it's like 3 or 4 comedians going over the movie in general and how it doesn't make complete sense, and sometimes they end up loving these stupid movies or like actually hating them. But it's really enjoyable. They recap it. I don't think they do a great job going in order because, they're comedians, so they're just like joking about things and they just start snowballing. I've been saying snowballing a lot in this episode, but it like snowballs into them joking about other things throughout the movie and things of that nature. And it's even more enjoyable when you know or have seen the crappy movie like before they do the episode, so then you can sort of follow along with like their like how this doesn't make sense and it makes you laugh and things of that nature. I really enjoy it. Highly recommend. I remember one time I mentioned to you that I wanted to just watch one of the crappy movies that they have on, like, they have a bunch of episodes. I think they're like up to episode 206 or something.
Wow.
Of movies that they watched. I just wanted to watch one of them and then listen with you and see if you thought it was funny or not, but I completely forgot about that way back when. But the thing is, I don't know. If you can't stay awake during good movies, I don't know if you're going to stay awake through a crappy one.
Probably not, but there's only one way to find out.
That's true. But that's my recommendation. That and the Rosecast. I guess it was a joint recommendation, we should say.
It was
a
definitely
joint recommendation.
Whatever.
But is there anything you want to say before we roll on out?
Nope.
I should say that we are grateful for all of our hot listeners. That's one thing we're grateful for. Each and every time we release this episode. Remember, we're available all over the place, so you can share us with your friends and family because they can easily find us. And if they can't find us because they're a little older and don't know how to work the phone, you can show them. It'd be nice. But yeah, we're available. iTunes. If you're on iTunes, the Apple Podcast, please give us 5 stars. It's relatively easy to do. We would appreciate it a lot. We're available on Overcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify even. So check us out there. All the other information for our Facebook page, Twitter page, and where to email us is in the description on each episode. So feel free to email us questions if you want, or email us just kind words because we've gotten some of those, and it's nice. It's really nice.
It's nice.
But other than that, we appreciate you all for listening. We'll catch you next time, next Tuesday.
Yep. Thank you for listening.
Bye.